Hey, good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Hail Trace today for your lunchtime forecast. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and today we're talking about an all hazards risk storms for today out in the Texas Panhandle and into western and even portions of north central Oklahoma. We'll talk about those hazards. Tomorrow, a tornado and a wind threat through Louisiana and portions of Mississippi. So that is just right along the Gulf Coast. We'll talk about exactly what that means tomorrow as well. And we have a storm brewing a little bit farther down to the south now into the Caribbean. A tropical depression is very likely to form down there. We'll talk exactly what that means and the timeline for that as well here in just a few minutes. But I want to get to see what we saw yesterday. There's actually something very interesting with our storm reports yesterday. For the most part, pretty quiet. Nothing to report here. We've got some showers and storms and even some snow up in the mountains. But look just off the west coast here, the Pacific Northwest. We have a tornado report. And I don't think it's going to pop up here, but I'll just tell you about it here. It's right around 7:30 last night. And yeah, it's not even popping up. It was right outside of Portland. We had a reported tornado from a spotter right around 7:30 yesterday evening. That very rarely happens in Washington, let alone in November, so pretty impressive there. Other than that, what we saw was rain and then snow through the mountains yesterday and then pretty quiet elsewhere. Now, we're trying to see cooler temperatures come in. We're attempting to cool down here. That'll be moving in from the west. But right now, we are sitting with those temperatures above average, okay? Temperatures are above average anywhere from the plains all the way out to the south and east. We are cooling off out in the northeast, which is great to see. A little bit more fall-like weather in places like New York and through our New England states. Alrighty, what are we looking at for today? We've got a few showers and storms off to the north and west. We've got that rain that's just very persistent across places like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Here is where we're watching for the storms later on today. Not right now, but later today, we'll start to see those storms fire up anywhere from the Texas Panhandle to the western side of Oklahoma. And then you can see for some of our New England states, we're getting a little bit of rain right now, a little bit of cloud cover, but for the most part, it's a very fall-like day. All right, this is where we're watching for storms tomorrow, so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Out to the west, we've got an atmospheric river. You probably hear this all the time. That's going to bring in a ton of moisture, rain, and snow over the next few days. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But yes, cooler weather, 30s and 40s out to the west, 60s and 70s across the southern plains right now. Here's your atmospheric river. You ready for this? Okay, you probably hear this on national television. They love to use this word. What does that mean? That means an influx of moisture, usually bringing all of that wet weather at the surface, okay? So we like to call this an atmospheric river because it really does kind of flow like you would imagine a river to flow, but way above our heads up in the atmosphere. But that's going to bring in all of this rain and snow through the northwest, mainly later on tonight and into early tomorrow morning. You can see all of that moisture just covering the north and west, exactly where we had that tornado spotted yesterday. Alrighty, taking a look at what we're watching for storm-wise. Okay, today we're watching for storms out in Oklahoma and Texas. Tomorrow we're going to shift a little bit to the east and down to the south, all the way through Louisiana and portions of Mississippi, expecting that storm risk as well. What about that significant hail model? Your hail model also looking a little bit more impressive out to the panhandle of Texas and into Oklahoma. And it looks like it's not popping up right now. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Good news here, we do have a hail forecast that I'll show you in just a few minutes, and then I'll show you your radar as well. So this is the area that we're expecting to see storms today, okay? This is the area to focus on. Those storms, the farther west that we go, are going to be very isolated, okay? But as we get into Oklahoma, these become a little bit more widespread. The hail sizes go down as we get into Oklahoma as well. Some really good rainfall up in Kansas, but we're not expecting any severe weather up in Kansas, just some really good soaking rain. That rainfall, or that severe weather, actually comes down into Oklahoma and then into Texas as well. Again, remember, very isolated out in Texas, but a little bit more widespread as we get into Oklahoma. So I've got a very low chance to get any hail out in Texas. Here's the thing, if we do get hail out here, it's going to be larger. It's going to be a low chance. It's going to be larger. A better chance to get hail anywhere from Woodward all the way down to Weatherford, which is right along I-40 there. This area is going to have more widespread scattered showers and storms, but the hail sizes are going to be smaller, maybe up to the size of a quarter, maybe even smaller than that. Also with this comes a wind and even a tornado threat today. So where are we watching for that tornado risk? That'll be just outside of Lubbock on the southern side here. It's those isolated cells, okay? It's not going to be widespread today, but if you can get an isolated or what we like to call discrete storm, that is where we're watching for that tornado threat today, just in the northern side of Texas, northwestern side of Texas here. What about your maximum forecasted hail size? As I mentioned, most of these hailstones are going to be smaller. We can get even small hail like marble-sized hail up in places like Tulsa tomorrow morning, northeastern Oklahoma tomorrow morning. That's where we're watching for some really, really small hail. If we could get an isolated storm or two, as I mentioned earlier, out into Texas, into the Texas panhandle, that is where we're getting that larger hailstone up to the size of a ping pong ball. So what are your, overall, we talked about a lot here. What are those main risks for today, later on this evening, into the overnight hours, even through tomorrow morning? Hail risk, that's going to be the biggest risk here. I have it in a medium. Your tornado risk is low, your wind risk also low, your flooding risk also low. All right, moving on to tomorrow, future radar for Louisiana and then into Mississippi. We've had rain here over the last, I think at least yesterday, definitely today, and now we're getting rain tomorrow as well. The severe risk really starts to kick in tomorrow. So this is where we're seeing that tornado risk, that high wind risk as well. Those will be the big, big hazards out in this area. I am not expecting a hail risk for tomorrow through the southern Gulf states here. But here's your wind risk. Very similar tornado risk as well. A little bit more widespread for thunderstorms from New Orleans to Jackson and into Mobile. If you go a little bit farther off to the west, these thunderstorms are going to kick off in the very beginning of the day, but then move to the east. We're going to have rain all day through the central, through the eastern side of Louisiana and through the central portion of Mississippi, and even into the very, very southwestern side of Mississippi, Alabama as well. There you go. I'm getting my Gulf states confused here. Okay, what about the tornado forecast? So we just talked about the wind forecast. Let's talk about that tornado forecast. It's low. It's a level 1 risk highlighted here in green, but it's still on the board. So these are going to be your spin-up tornadoes. They're going to happen fast. You may not have a ton of reaction time with this. So what that means is that you need multiple ways to get those alerts so that whatever reaction time you do have, you can take advantage of it. Just because we call it a spin-up tornado does not mean that it's going to be small or weak. It just means that it's fast. All right, let's talk about the tropical cyclone formation. Confidence is increasing that we will have a tropical depression in the Caribbean. You can kind of see those storms become a little bit more organized here, okay? More organized than what we at least saw yesterday. Very, very disorganized yesterday. So our confidence is increasing. 60% chance for tropical depression formation in the next 2 days. 90% chance over the next week. So probably what we're looking at here is late this week into this weekend. This is where we're expecting to see that formation, this area highlighted here in red. So of course we'll keep you updated on that. Most likely the impact to the U.S. is going to be low to none. No to low is what I like to say here. If this turns to the north, which I do not think it will, we go into a high shear environment, which means that whatever weak system we do get out of this, that shear is going to weaken it even more, and we will most likely not see anything threatening to the U.S. here. But it is something to watch out in the tropics. If you're vacationing out here, you could probably get some strong winds, maybe even some rain in this area as well. The surf is probably going to be pretty high in these areas as well. Alrighty, and I think that's it for your Tuesday afternoon. Oh, we've got temperatures. Okay, let's talk temperatures real quick. I told you that those cooler temperatures were trying to move in to the plains. We're slowly working on those cooler temperatures moving in. We may have a little bit of a cool down here, but our big cool down is going to come a little bit later. Let's give it a week and a half into November. We're talking right before Thanksgiving. We are looking at a significant cool down into the plains. For now, those temperatures will drop a little bit. Okay, it'll be enough to have to wear your jacket most of the day. We've got 57 early tomorrow morning here in Oklahoma, 62 in the afternoon. We're not warming up too much tomorrow afternoon. We've got the 40s out in Denver by Wednesday afternoon, the 50s in Kansas City, and you can see out to the north and east, we're staying on the cooler side out there as well. Trying to cool down those temperatures through the southeast as well. Temperatures will be topping out in the 60s and 70s as we end the work week, but it does look like we warm up just a little bit more into the weekend. As I mentioned, we will see a true fall cool down later on in November. All right, thanks for joining us today on this Tuesday afternoon. Watch for those storms this evening across Texas and Oklahoma. Of course, we'll be tracking it here at Hail Trace. We've got meteorologists staffed 24/7. In the meantime, and for any hail or wind or tornado videos, if we get them, we're posting them. You'll see them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map, give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. You can even head over to our website where we have a blog on there. And if you're a weather enthusiast like we are here at Hail Trace, you're going to love our blog, so head over to hailtrace.com. All right, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.